Hi guys, I'm Madison Mary and welcome back to my channel. Today I have my April wrap up for you guys. So the month of April I read 13 books. I actually had a really great reading month and you will see in a second. Well, actually, I had some pretty crappy reads now that I think about it, so I don't really know about that. But regardless, let's get into my statistics. So I read 10 physical books and 3 ebooks this month. For genres, I read 4 fantasies, 1 historical fiction, 1 dystopian, 2 Regency romances, which were also novellas, 3 contemporary romances, 1 mystery thriller-ish book, and 1 non-fiction. Out of these, 6 of them were YA and 7 were adult. And finally, my favorite statistic of the month, which is my total page count, which is the highest month so far this year, and that is 4,553. Woo! What a number! So as for now, I'm going to start with my lowest rated read and work up to my highest rated read. I'm going to start off actually with a DNF, which I didn't count in any of the statistics. So this is my first DNF of the year, and that is Salt in the Stars by Amy Rose Capetta and Corey McCarthy. I feel bad. I read the first book, gave it 2 stars, was like, hey, why not check out the second book? And you know what? It was DNF within the first couple of pages. It was just, I just couldn't do it. You can check out my vlog where I DNF it because you get actually my live reaction to DNFing it, which is quite hilarious in my own opinion. So I'll link that vlog down below. But yeah, this just didn't end up well, and I get people who do like this series, I do, but I'm not one of them, and that's just what I'm gonna stand by. So my lowest rated book of the month I actually don't have with me anymore because I lent it to a friend. Well, actually I just gave it to my friend because I was like, I don't want this, you can have it. And that is a book I rated 1 star, and that is Hush Hush by Becca Fitzpatrick. Yeah, so this follows Nora and Patch. Nora is your not like other girls YA heroine, and Patch is a fallen angel, and it's a story about the 2 of them. And it's not good. I read this as part of reading old 2000s YA fantasies, and this did not stand up to the test of time. There were a lot of cringy moments in this, really cringy. She says that she's so tall, her legs are so long like bar stools. The guy Patch swipes off her lipstick and is like, you look better without makeup. And then for the rest of the book she doesn't wear makeup because of that comment. And it's not good. The ending was not good. It wasn't a good book at all, and I don't recommend it. The next lowest rated read is a book I read right after that one, and that is 1.5 stars and The Lux by Anna Godbernson. So this is set in New York 1899, and we follow a cast of girls. It's kind of like period Gossip Girl basically. So at the start of the book you find out that Elizabeth is dead, but you don't know how or why or what's going on. Then you flash back some months and Elizabeth has just returned from Paris, and she finds out that her family is actually going a bit bankrupt, and so she has to find a husband to help her family. Kind of about how she's actually in love with the stable boy but ends up having to get engaged to this guy that her best friend used to have a secret affair with, but then her younger sister ends up having a secret affair with, and it's just a huge mess of a storyline. This book is way too long. I DNF'd this when I was probably 12 or 13 and then tried to pick it up again now, and it was still no better. I rated it higher than Hush Hush because the writing was better, but that's pretty much it. I don't recommend this series either, as to the test of time. Then we have my 2-star book, and that is Redemption Prep by Samuel Miller. This is about a preparatory school where they pick unique kids from all over the world with special talents. The main character is basically Emma, and she was brought because she's a poet, and she ends up going missing one night, and so everyone's trying to figure out what's going on. They're very secluded, this preparatory school. It's kind of strange, to be honest with you, and you follow 3 point of views. You follow Aiden, who is Emma's boyfriend and is also addicted to this drug called Apex. Nisha, who is Emma's best friend and created Apex and is selling it to the student body. And Evan, who is basically Emma's stalker. And you follow 3 of them as they try and uncover what happened to Emma and the secrets to the school. It's just, it wasn't well written. I just didn't enjoy it at all. There were some points I thought was cool, and that's the fact that Apex, the drug in this, is basically Adderall, and this book takes place a couple years before Adderall was actually created here you know, in our actual world. And so that was like a really cool aspect of it, but that was pretty much all I liked. The 3 POVs were very distinctive voices, but they were all such a mess. I found Nisha and Aiden to be really boring. Evan was an interesting POV because he was actively searching for Emma, but his inner monologue was very confusing. Evan just has a lot of issues with communication and human connections and things like that, and so his inner monologue is very confusing, it's very jumbled. He kind of prattles off for paragraphs, his paragraphs tend to, you know, kind of go sideways, and he has his own kind of code that he speaks in, and it was just a mess of a book, and I just didn't think that the plot made sense, especially the mystery thriller aspect. I know what it was trying to do, but it wasn't well done, and I didn't like it. So that's that. The next book is a 2.5 stars, and that is My Life in Shambles by Karina Hale. This fulfilled my owls prompt to read a book with the letter M. I didn't even mention that I did the owls. I did the owls, by the way, and I won. Anyway, My Life in Shambles, I read this as an ebook. So this follows Valerie Stevens, who has, in the span of 2 or 3 weeks, lost her fiance, lost her house, and lost her job. And so when her 2 older sisters invite her to come spend New Year's with them in Ireland, she says yes, and has this whole new resolution to just say yes and go for anything. And so on New Year's Eve in Ireland, she sees this really attractive guy in the bar and goes up to him, and the 2 of them end up spending a night together. His name is Padraig, and he is actually a huge rugby star who has just gotten a concussion, so he's currently, you know, not playing. And then Padraig asks Valerie to be his fake fiance for when he goes back to visit his dad for a while, because his dad is terminally ill and only has a couple months left to live, and she says yes. What I really liked about this aspect of the fake fiance part was the fact that in the beginning she was very hesitant. She actually said no initially, and then actually came back and was like, okay, I'll do it, like, why not? So I like that, because sometimes you have the characters be like, yeah, I'll be your fake fiance, and you're like, but bro, why? The reason why I gave this 2.5 stars is not because it's badly written, it's not because the sex scenes aren't like great. It's because of the fact that this book was a lot more serious and sad and depressing than I initially realized. There's a lot of talk about our 2 characters. Valerie was actually in an accident as a kid, so she has all these scars over her legs, and her mum is constantly body shaming her, and a lot of Valerie's plotline is about her kind of finding herself again after all these things have gone wrong in her life, also accepting herself and standing up to her mum and, you know, being all body positive. It's a very big part of her plotline. And then Padraig's plotline is, you know, his dad is terminally ill, but also you find out that Padraig has a chronic illness that he gets diagnosed with. That's a bit of a spoiler, but it's also, I feel like, something that people should know about going in, because it's very real and raw, and a lot of this book is about Padraig dealing with this new chronic illness that he's been diagnosed with, and Valerie being there for him. And it's just a very serious novel, and I went into this thinking it was going to be this fun fake fiance book, and it's not really. So that was a downside for me. Moving on to my 3-star rates, I'm going to start off with my non-fiction. This is the last book I had to read for my neuroscience literacy class. By the way, the day that I am filming this is the day after I just graduated from college, so I now have a Bachelor of Science in Neuroscience. But the book I had to read was Grit by Angela Duckworth. This is about grit, which is a concept she kind of really coined in a sense, and it's about how grit is basically passion and perseverance at its core, and it's how people really succeed in the world. And it just didn't do it for me. I gave it 3 stars because it is interesting, but it's not something I'm going to go and recommend to people to read, really. Maybe high school. I can see this being a high school book, but this really isn't something I would coin as like something I would want to read again, especially in college. The next 2 to 5 star book is The Life in Medieval Times of Kit Sweetly by Jamie Paxton. We follow Kit Sweetly, who works at the castle. And this is a medieval themed restaurant in which all the women are serving wenches. They dress up in, like, you know, medieval garb, and every night there are jousting competitions, and it's, you know, this whole stage thing that's going on, and she doesn't want to be a serving wench anymore, and she wants to be a knight, like her older brother. However, because of the rules, she's not allowed to be a knight because it's not historically accurate. And so when Kit one night takes over her brother's spot and gets caught on camera being a female knight, it blows up as a viral sensation and basically becomes Kit versus the castle in trying to get corporate to see that women deserve a right to be knights. So this was really interesting. I do want to quickly say right now that this book immensely immensely spoils Game of Thrones, the final season. If you have not watched the final season, do not read this book because it will spoil a couple of plots in it, which really shocked me. I was like reading it and I was like, oh my god, I can't believe you just so blatantly like, okay. This book, I thought it was actually going to be more of a romance than it was, which is probably why I gave it 3 out of 5 stars instead of anything higher than that. I just didn't find myself really connecting to Kit as a character. This was definitely a lot more of a coming of age feminism book. And so it's about Kit who, and this is something I really love, was advocating for not just women to actually have the right to be knights, but any gender. So we actually have ace representation, we have trans rep, non-binary rep, like it's really great in that sense, and I loved seeing that being shown in a book. This book definitely has a lot of winning qualities about it. It's just not something that I was fully invested in or something that I was fully connected with, and so that's kind of where it landed as a 3 out of 5 star read. Do not read this for romance at all because the romance is actually very surface level, and I feel like I would have preferred there to be no romance in it than the sad romance we kind of had. It's a really important book and I enjoyed it for that aspect, but it definitely did fall flat for me. The next 3 out of 5 star book is a Regency romance novella. This is How to Catch a Viscount by Tessa Dare. This was 105 pages and okay, as someone who has read other Tessa Dare books and loved them, this one really fell flat for me in a sense because as much as it was fun, I just think that I've read so many better novellas, especially since I know how great Tessa Dare's writing is. I think that she doesn't really shine in this book. It's basically about this girl who's been in love with this guy for years, and he kissed her right before he left for war, and now is finally back from war for 5 years later, and she's still pining after him, but he feels like he's too ruined from the war to be with her, and so he's like pushing her away, and so it's kind of them coming together and their romance. I didn't like him, and I think that's where the main issue came from with me giving this 3 out of 5 stars. I loved our female heroine. She was really cool and badass, but the male love interest was just kind of, he's kind of a dick, to be honest with you guys, and so I was just like, I don't like you. But it definitely had some really cute, quirky moments, which were classic Tessa Dare, especially to do with some stockings, if I must say so myself. I was like, oh ho ho. It was really fun in that sense. The first 4 star is another Regency romance novella. That is The Governess Affair, which is Brother Sinister prequel, like 0.5, and this is by Courtney Milan. This is my first time ever reading a Courtney Milan book and I loved it. Of course, it's a novella, so I kind of struggle giving novellas 5 stars a lot of times, but this is about a woman who is currently camped outside of a duke's estate, and she's camped out there and no one knows why, and so the duke has his right-hand man find a way to get rid of this governess because she is inciting rumors, which is not good because the duke is trying to win back his wife because he cheated on her. So it's a really sweet romance between the duke's right-hand man and this governess, and I actually loved it. Definitely check it out. It was for free on Kindle. It was like $0 when I downloaded it, so if it's still $0, I'll link it down below. Definitely check it out, especially if you like any Regency romances. I definitely want to look more into Courtney Milan now. She seems like an awesome author and I really love just her tone, so I'm super excited. The next 2 books are 4.5 stars. The first of that is going to be Every How to Do It by Seanan McGuire. I'm so glad I finally read this. So this completed the prompt to read a book under like 200 pages or something for my owls, and I'd heard always really great things about this. It's about Eleanor West's Home for Wayward Children, which is basically a boarding school for kids who end up in portal worlds. So kind of like imagine Alice in Wonderland, like how she falls down the rabbit hole, ends up in a different world, and then comes back. And so it's about those kids who come back and don't know how to deal with being back, and their parents like think that the kids are crazy, and it's really great. This book was so much more different than what I was expecting. The tone and the plot are like crazy, and I'm so excited to continue on with this series. The second book is supposed to focus on Jack and Jill, and their whole like world sounded so awesome, and I just had such a blast reading this. I'm so surprised because I mean I've heard great things about this for so long now, but I've always been hesitant to pick it up because I don't know, I was like, well, can it really be that great? And it is. So if you guys have been hesitant about this book, pick it up. The next 5-star book is The Deck of Omens by Christine Lynn Herman. So this is the last book in the duology, which starts off with The Devouring Grey. I read that as an arc last year, and then I got to read the sequel as an arc this year. I think this duology ended so beautifully. It ended in a way that I normally hate books ending in, but it really worked in this sense, and Zelda, are you serious? I really love just these characters. They mean so much to me, and they're just so much fun, and I care so much about them. You can see a lot of growth in this book, especially between May Hawthorne, who is a character you didn't really focus that much on in the first book, but she is a main POV in this book. Basically, this duology focuses on 4 paths in upstate New York, and this is a town that was founded by 4 families, and each of those 4 families have a specific power that they use to keep the Grey at bay. And the Grey is basically this mild alternate reality. It's kind of like the Upside Down in a sense, and there is a beast that lives in there that kills people. And so the 4 families, Zelda, can you stop playing with the box? And so the 4 families each use their powers to keep the Grey at bay and to keep the beast from hurting the town. And Violet Saunders doesn't know that she's one of the 4 founding families until her and her mum come back to town many years later, and then she kind of gets caught up in the fact that the beast is now starting to kind of act out a lot more, and the Grey is starting to reach into where it never used to. This book just becomes so much more than I ever expected it to. There are a lot of twists and turns in this final book. There are a lot of characters. There's a lot of talk about queer representation, a lot of talk between Violet and her mum about being bisexual and them coming out to each other, which was a very beautiful conversation. And I love this series, and I'm so excited to see every other book that Christine Lynn Herman will eventually publish. The last 4.5-star book I talked to you guys about is The Selection by Kiera Cass. I love this book! So I recently uploaded a video where I read this book, and a lot of people said that they wanted me to do a vlog binge reading the rest of the series. So I'm going to put up above in a little poll if you guys want that to be a spoiler vlog where I read the rest of this series, or non-spoiler vlog, because I'm curious, because I already ordered the second book and I'm so excited to continue with the series. This is a YA dystopian, and I loved it. It's basically about this world where every caste is basically by numbers. So we have the ones who are at the top, the royals, and then you have the 8s who are homeless. So we follow America Singer, and she is a 5, which means that she is a artist. That is what the caste is, and they have just enough money to barely get enough food on the table for all of them. When Prince Maxon, who is the prince of this country, comes of age, he invokes the selection, which is a competition where 35 women are chosen from all different castes from all over to participate and basically have the Bachelor. And so America ends up applying because everyone forces her to, and then she ends up actually getting chosen. And so it's about her going to the selection and competing with 35 other girls, well 34 other girls, to win Prince Maxon's heart. And it's actually a very beautiful story. This was not at all cringy. I really thought this was going to be very stereotypical. I thought there was going to be just a lot of times where I was like, oh, it's not that funny. This was so funny. I laughed out loud so many times. The humor in this was golden. I personally think that America and Maxon at the moment remind me a lot of Selena and Dorian. So if you loved Selena and Dorian's friendship, you will definitely enjoy Prince Maxon and America Singer's kind of relationship that they have in this book. I have heard not that great things about her newest series, which is The Burt Road, which takes place after the whole Selection series, but you know, we never know. But yeah, I really love this, and I'm so excited to continue on the series. So the first 5-star book is Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. Are we surprised? Not at all. I have a spoiler vlog just dedicated to this book, and it is hilarious. Yeah, so I actually have a full vlog just dedicated to Crescent City. My emotions to this, I bawled like a child at the end of it, which is in the vlog, and it actually makes me laugh when I rewatch it. I laugh at myself crying. That's so cute. I love this book. It spoke to me on so many different levels. Basically, this is about Bryce Quinlan. She is a half fae, half human female. There was a massacre 2 years ago that was very personal to her, and now 2 years later, the murder's starting up again, which means that the person that they thought caused the massacre did not do it, and so they now need to figure out where this demon is that did the killing and who was controlling it. And she ends up getting partnered up with Hunt Athalar, and he is a fallen angel. And it's just such a great story. There's so much more to this. I'm still kind of curious to see if Bryce and Hunt will be endgame. I think they will be, but my prediction is that like in the next book, they're gonna have falling out, and then in book 3, she'll be with someone else, and then in book 4, it'll be her and Hunt again, and they'll be endgame. Cause like, it's Sarah J. Maas. The love interest never stays the same throughout. It just doesn't happen. But yeah, I love this. If you want to see more of my thoughts on it, do check out the vlog. I don't want to spend too much time like, you know, talking about this because I had 13 books to talk about in this vlog. So like, And then the last 5-star read that I read in the month of April is The Tourist Attraction by Sarah Morgenthaler. This is her debut novel. She already has a date set for the 2nd and 3rd book in the Moose Springs series, and I'm so excited for them. This was so much fun. So this takes place in Moose Springs, Alaska, which is basically in the wilderness, and all that there really is this really quiet, quaint town and then this massive luxury resort. And so the people who live in Moose Springs hate the tourists. Like, there's a vehement, like, you know, separation between the people who live there and the tourists. And so we follow Graham, and he owns this diner called the Tourist Trap. And he named it that because of irony. He was like, I'm gonna call it the Tourist Trap. And then it literally became a tourist trap. Like, all the people who go to the resort love coming to his place, and now he's like really bitter about it but also loves it. So it's really funny to follow him. He also has a dog that is blind, and it is hilarious. And then there's also a moose that likes to make love to his car, and the moose's name is Ulysses, so that's great. And then we also follow Zoe Caldwell, and she has always wanted to go to Alaska, and she's finally saved up enough money to visit her friend who is always a tourist at the resort. She's actually good friends with Graham. And she goes, and when she gets there, she just wants to do all these touristy things, and she's so excited and bright-eyed, but she's also very down to earth, and she instantly captures Graham's attention, and he takes such an interest in her and decides to, you know, show her around and make the most of it. And it's such a crazy and beautiful and fun romance. I love this so much. I'm so surprised this was a full 5 stars. So definitely check this out. This just came out on May 5th. I highly, 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 highly recommend it if you're looking for a very fun, like, captivating romance during this time. It completely, like, just took me out of everything, and I loved it. I really, really loved it. So that is it for my April wrap up. That is all 13 books that I read. It was a very mixed reading month. I had some awful reads and then some fantastic reads. So, you know, overall it was a win. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button down below if you want to see more of me. Be subscribed to my channel. And until next time, thanks so much, guys. Bye!